name is Joanna Hardy, and I'm very briefly going to tell you who I am, mainly for the camera, not for you, because I'm sure you know who I am. But I've been in the jewellery business for 35 years. I trained as a goldsmith. I then became a rough diamond valuer for De Beers. I then became a diamond dealer in Antwerp. I then worked for Phillips the auctioneers. I am a gemologist. Then I became a polished diamond dealer in Antwerp. And then Phillips, and then 14 years with Sotheby's. I'm head of the jewellery department and auctioneer for Sotheby's in Bond Street for 14 years. In the last 10 years, I have been writing books, commentating on other people's jewellery. When I learned how to make jewellery, it quickly taught me that it is a skill that I didn't have. So I've left that to the professionals. And yes, so I write books and commentate and value and look for new talent and support craftsmanship. That is really important to me, whether that is obviously I do the BBC Antiques Roadshow, and I see an awful lot of jewellery. So because I see so much jewellery, there is an awful lot that doesn't make me look twice at it. And I think we're at a stage at the moment, which is a very challenging stage, where with modern technology and skills and craftsmanship are being left behind. And I think it is so important that we keep these skills alive, because they are our heritage and they are made with the hands of the craftsman that gives the soul and the passion back into the industry. And we mustn't lose that. So when I was in Bergdorf's a couple of years ago, I was just looking to see, as I normally do, what is around, what are they showing. And I came across Silvia's work, having never really, I hadn't met you or I hadn't really heard much about you, and I was absolutely bowled over. Now for me, to have jewellery that suddenly turns my head, and it turned my head because of the craftsmanship, the design, and also because there was something sort of antique-y about it in terms of, I look at micro mosaics and Florentine mosaics in Victorian jewellery, and we don't see that today. But to find that level of skill today in jewellery really makes me perk up and think, wow, you know, how is this? Who is this person? How has this come about? With antique jewellery, when I look at like René Lalique or some of these amazing jewelers of the past, I just think, oh, how I would love to have a conversation with him. What was going through his head? What was going through his mind? And the one beauty, which we'll be able to hear from Silvia, is that we have a living designer who can tell us exactly what is going on inside your head and what inspires you. So that's what is very, very special. So we're just going to show a very short little video, and then we will have the rolling imagery of Silvia's work, and then we will hear all about it. Wow. But before we get to that journey, I want to start at the very beginning, because it's that clearly that passion and that vision that you have. But when did you recognize it?
Well, I recognized it when in the year 2000 that I decided, after doing many things before, to do a goldsmith workshop where I stayed for 2 years to know the basics of gold casting and the tools. And there is one particular scene that I remembered in this, when there is a point of when the gold melts. There is one point that it's hard and one point that is soft.
And it goes. Yes.
It goes, and there is a flash. Then I had this image that I remember a picture of my father, that my father was a goldsmith. I keep repeating this, but it's important to say that he died when I was 17. And this picture came in my mind. This was a hidden scene for me. In this moment, I discovered that this was the right way to go from now on, from 2000 on. When I had this, it was very strong for me.
And it hadn't come before? I mean, you remember your father being a goldsmith?
Yes, in a way, because I used to have a company that used to make costume jewelry, not with gold, but with Brazilian stones. I had this company for 10 years. And the jewelry, it's similar, you know, if I see those jewelry, they are very similar, but the material that attract me, you know, what my father did at the time, I didn't value it because I was too young. And I think everything is in your mind, you know, since you are born. All the scenes are registered. So I decided to make this career of jewelry.
It was an epiphany moment.
Yes, that's in that moment I decided I was very passionate about this, you know, that because I used to work with aromatherapy, I used to work with many things that I was not so passionate as I am now, you know, every day of my life, you know. In Brazil, of course, you have the most amazing gemstones. Yeah. Well, do you remember your father working with the cut stones? Because there's a lot of wonderful rough in the 60s here in the UK. A lot of rough came from Brazil, which jewelers like Grima, they would use the rough stones from Brazil. Was it rough or cut or? No, because he worked only with gold.
Oh, only with gold?
Only with gold. You
okay.
know? I'm Italian from origin. I'm Longobardi. His name was Salvador Longobardi. And it's mainly with gold, you know, not with stones, maybe a little bit of diamonds. But I don't have many registered images of the jewelry he used to do, you know. But this image was the most important for me. You know, the making of, you know.
But it's that obviously by osmosis almost that you suddenly had that realization. Yeah. And I think sometimes that's very important because passion and a love for a discipline, or you know, we can find that at any age. You don't necessarily have to find it when you're young because you might not be ready for it.
Yes, because there is one point in life that everything happens at the same time. And that this was like a window in the time, you know. So I got this window.
I hear that, you said to me yesterday that you can't go to sleep because you have so many ideas going around in your head, and your aromatherapy has helped you sort of.
Yes, a lot. Because until today, I use all the essential oils, lavender, patchouli, and I use the pure ones, and whenever I go to have a bath, I use essential. They are useful for myself, you know. Not.
But that whole feeling and that sensitivity that you have comes through all your work, in my opinion. And but I want you to tell us how, for a lot of people, they will make jewellery with the traditional settings or with, the stones, but you have taken something that's wood, for instance, that is ordinary, I suppose, in terms of its value, and you've made it precious through the craftsman and through your interpretation of these designs. I mean, where did that begin when you wanted to work with different materials? I
think since the beginning, I was wood. It's my favorite material because
Why?
Because I love nature. I love trees. I love to be in nature, and I love to the material because it's soft. You can sculpture. It's very flexible, and it's warm, and it's I love. And when I found marquetry, it got a connection between wood and the veneers that we use for marquetry. And at that time, at the beginning of my career, I was not sure that I always asked myself, but this is not precious, this is costume jewelry, because I had this in mind before, and then came to a point that I said to myself, I'm going to do something that I like, not about the opinion of others. And this was very hard at the beginning, mainly in Brazil, because the people until today, I find it's very hard when I travel to the north of Brazil, where they don't have much information about what's going on all over the world. And I think they don't accept, this is not a jewelry, this is costume jewelry, it has gold. They don't understand,
Well, that's worldwide. I mean, that's not just Brazil. Yeah. That's, all over the world, people have this, this idea, this concept of what jewelry should look like and how much, and it's all been about money. And I think
the value, how much does it weigh, how many diamonds. So the value is not on this. So I began. It's interesting because nowadays this is coming out. The people are valuing what is handcraft and what is something done with the hands. And I think that for me, nowadays, this is the value of the jewelry. The material is very important because the mixture is perfect, but I'm planning to do something even more only craftsmanship. This is my passion, Of course, we do a lot of things to adapt each market, but the essence cannot be lost.
I think the challenge that we have now is that we've got this, the social media, which can help, but it can also hinder, because I'm thinking back to the Fabergé days, when Carl Fabergé said that his value was in his craftsman. That's where his intrinsic value was, and he used stones that Siberian jade and agates, and it was how he used that material. That was what was important, and to the level of expertise. But he didn't have social media sort of telling you that you should have sort of precious stones and things. So I think it's harder. It's more of a challenge to educate people in understanding that craftsmanship, the skills, is not about the value. It's about how the material is used.
The time is very important. Time is precious nowadays.
Yes, physical time. You mean? Yes,
physical time, because everything is so quick nowadays. Everything is immediate. Everything. The person wants to do this immediately. And I think the luxury is time, to have time to dedicate yourself in a craftsmanship and to develop, as I told you yesterday about this film Takumi. I think it's in Amazon, where they say for you to dominate a craft, you have to work 60,000 hours. It means 8 hours a day for 20 years to dominate a craftsmanship. So this is very true in Japan, because Japan, it's part of their culture to develop a skill and pass through generations to generations, to your son, to your grandson, and it becomes better and better. So they dominate the technique,
And it is the technique that has the ego. I think we are, with those today, there's a lot of designers that it's more about them than it is about their product or is about their design. And the skills and the craftsmanship is not actually allowing to develop. It's almost getting hindered and stifled by the ego.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning, when you wanted to use wood and you went on a discovery of finding, you always have this eye to find people that have a skill and then you can adapt it, adopt it for your designs. Can you tell me more about the marquetry, how you first came across those people that were craftsmen that you found in Brazil?
I came across marquetry. I was in a museum in a university in Sao Paolo, and they had a little store where they sell some, and I saw a little box of marquetry. And with me, I'm a very curious person, I'm always paying attention to everything. And if I go in a place that like many things, I have the eye to find something that attract my eyes, like it's shining, and I saw this craftsmanship and I always go after it. And I said, I want to know this person. And this person lives in the Amazon forest, in the north of Brazil, that to get there, you take more than to come to London, more time. Because you have to take 3 planes, then you take a car, and you take this motorboat, to arrive in this community where I met this artist. I was amazed when I saw him the first time, the work he did, because I saw a little box, and he's famous in Brazil that he makes big screens of the Amazon forest with the woods. So he goes out in the forest searching for roots falling, and everything he uses is sustainable because we use veneers that came from the indústria de móveis, the leftovers from the furniture industry, you know. So if you go in the room, you see thousands of little pieces that are precious for that kind of piece that we want to make. So we became very friends. I came there many times.
Was it just him, or did he have a sort of a
few
people?
25 people that he taught these people.
And was it his father that taught him? I mean, is it a tradition that's been passed down?
He was born in the Amazonia, and he's called caboclo. A caboclo is a person that is born by the river. They are not Indian, they are caboclo. And he saw car for the first time in his life with 22 years old. And he had already this skill because he used to go out in the forest to take some woods, to cut some woods, to polish and to assemble them. Then some priests that were around in the city nearby, they saw his talent and paid him his studies in Germany. And Germany is the cradle of, I don't know if it's cradle of marquetry in furniture. So he stayed there 4 years. And when he came back to Acre, this place, it's in a state in Brazil, near the border with Peru, he began to work in his own atelier. He did an atelier and he began to work. And nowadays we have 25 people that work, that has the skill to make his technique.
My goodness, I mean, he must have, must have been so pleased to have met you, and you both have had this journey together.
It was like a marriage, because he was hidden there, and many people knows him, but around the area, but he never did small things. And when I first had, would you make something small? He said, no, it's impossible because it's too small. But with the friendship, so we developed the technique together to make little things like earrings. And the next year, this was my first collection on a flat surface. Next year, we made a botanical collection in a round surface, with volume and a 3D. So this was another challenge that we found some people that provide us the wood that they, it's called amata. They make they plant trees in Amazonia. It's
not yes. You also you talk about the sustainability. There's also, unfortunately, a lot of fires that have.
Yes, it's terrible. Whenever I go there, we heard those stories, and it's terrible because we know those people. They are so proud, of the forest, on the roots. They have many, strong roots, and we developed the technique to make the veneers, fold in a way that, like this, the pencils, it's made in parts, and you have to fold it. The veneer is stiff, so it's a challenge. So the people there, and at first when you come with something new, they are very resistant. They don't want to do. Then little by little, and they like it. And nowadays, I'm very proud because those people, those 25 people, now it's a little bit more, they are so proud about themselves that maybe in the last 5 years that I've been doing marketry, it's like a social work also because their lives got much better.
Yes.
It's spread all over the city. So their dream was to buy a motorcycle, each one. Today you arrive there, all the motorcycles at the door, So they are so simple people, so pure, they are not contaminated by society, they are very poor, but they are developing, and they are proud of themselves because I always, whenever I go there, I show them where their work is.
Oh, that must be incredible for them.
They are so
but it's the relationship that you have developed with them.
Yes.
And that is what is so important. And that is when you get a designer that it really works, is when they've got that respect, that they're sort of joined at the hip with their craftspeople, because without them, you need them, and they need you to push them as well. So
it's a challenge.
It's a challenge. But you'll get more out of them through that challenge and through that mutual respect and understanding of each other and trust. So I would imagine when you show photographs of where their work is being sold, it must blow them away.
They are very proud, and this is something new in my work.
Yes.
It's not because I have been doing this for since 2000, almost 20 years, and this fact is from the last 5 years.
It's only from the last 5 years.
Only for the
So what were you doing before the 5 years?
Sorry to interrupt, but the wood, I always use it in my work because we are a family business. I work with my 3 sons, hopefully, and we are like a team that each one has a special skill, And my work before marketry with wood was stones and wood and carving. But I think this tendency of making this craftsmanship to look for new techniques, I think it's from the last 5 years that my target now is to, I'm in a point of my life that I can choose whatever I want to do from now on, I have raised my kids, I have, the work is done. But
now the creativity can really take off.
My children are children. They are big men.
They're always children to mothers.
And they help me a lot because, like for instance, Alexander, he loves, the stones, the gold, the diamonds. He's a sophisticated taste, and he understands, the very deep. But this get a mixture with me, you know, because I'm not so courageous as he is, you know, to buy a very expensive emerald, but we mix together and the result is very nice. But what I really like is the process, you know, since the beginning to go. I don't use my, today's an exception.
They're beautiful turquoise, and they're not. And you say they're not stained or anything. They're absolutely pure. I mean, that's very rare.
I
beautiful
don't use.
stones.
I don't. I like
colour.
the process. I like to travel to Acre, to stay there in the forest and to talk with the people. I like to do this, you know, to talk with them, to know how they think, you know, what are their ideas, and
I mean that shows in all your work, because you really, you know, the Indian miniature paintings.
Yes.
I love those. Tell me about that process.
This was, I was in New York. I went to the Metropolitan to see the exhibition. I was in the Metropolitan. There was a small room where they were giving a magnifying glass. What's the name of the exhibition? Divine Pleasures. So I was curious and I took one magnifying glass. It was a small room, and when I saw through the magnifying glass, it was a whole universe, because the detail, it's amazing. And I want to do something with this. So I went to India. I went to Udaipur and I met those people in the school of Udaipur. Only men paint. Told you yesterday, and I was amazed. It's this, look, it's the natural pigments like from malachite, lapis. They use natural, and they use the brush is very, very thin. Like they use sometimes for the details they use the eyelash of a camel.
Wow, eyelash of a camel.
Yes, it's thick.
That's fantastic.
But it's one only where they make all the details. So when I saw this, and we became very friends, because we are friends until today, because one thing about my work is all the techniques that I do in a collection, they always is in the next collection too, because the miniature paintings are more Indian style with the Indian culture. And now we made about the miniature paintings about in the Obi collection. It's a collection that I found in an antique place. Where
just a sort of fabric as inspiration. Is that
fabric inspiration? Because this studio from the 19th century, they used to make for the people in Japan, like the kings in Japan, the emperors, fabrics for the obis, you know, the sash that you put around the kimono. When I saw this, it's all handmade. You know, there is a gold thread all over. So I have to do something with this, you know. And then I'm gonna take this fabric and make a bracelet. No, because it's fabric's gonna. So I took to India, and they are painting this, you know, inspired in the patterns. And this was very interesting, because I want to make marquetry in this collection. So I took it to the place with the marquetry, and we choose woods, type of woods that has the same pattern in the wood, you know?
Fantastic.
So we could make a collection made of miniature paintings, market and antique fragments from Japan to make the Obi collection.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's very nice. I have, this is my personal archives.
You're really mixing techniques, cultures.
Yeah.
And it's what's interesting is it's keeping the traditions alive, but you're also fusing them.
Yes,
as well.
This is very typical of my work, you know, to mix everything. You know, it's at the beginning something, maybe it's not gonna be nice, but it goes well, you know. You can see that, for instance, I began my work with the bracelets that I learned from a shaman to make in the hands, not with the needle, not with the loom. porcelain beads. So I started to make a butterfly, but I could never finish because you need such a concentration not to lose, because you take like a needle point chart and you follow. You have to count, then change colors all the time. So you take the other color. And then until today, this was in the year 2000 when I began to make those bracelets. And until today, I repeat with the collection, you know. I did the geishas in the, I think there is a picture. I love this tree, you know, in Amazonia. It's called Suma Uma. It's all with water inside. Yeah. And this tree is responsible to feed all the Amazonia by the flying rivers. Have you heard about it?
No, I'm afraid not.
There is a scientist that make a study in Amazonia, and they made like a study, and the flying rivers are more water than the rivers, because this Suma Uma, it's huge. This one is not so huge because it's
be.
But they feed other with the water, and after the clouds, the rivers with the water. It's fantastic. So I love this tree.
And you've got the clutch bag here,
yes,
which is
this is
fabulous. So the colors of the wood, they're so vibrant. So how is that?
The colors of the wood is a question that it's their secret. They never told me how they do it, but they are sure it's not pigmented, it's not dyed, because they make such a technique that it's a chemical reaction in the wood. For instance, the Muirapiranga is the red wood. If you see Muirapiranga, the tree, it's red, but it's not this red. So they boil, they mix with another materials to make it brighter. So, and it never came out, it's not dyed, you know, pigmented, I mean, but it's a chemical reaction of the wood, the colors they get.
And when did you, and this has been for the last 5 years that you've done the bags as well?
Yes, the bags I began to do. This was another challenge, because I believe that this is so precious that you cannot put, not to put gold and precious. This has to be a piece of jewelry, you know. And it was a challenge, because who is going to buy one clutch of wood with the fixtures in gold? But this is a success in sales, because everybody likes it, because it's something very
I mean, it feels so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think also, you know, the backstory behind it.
And this you can see the work, because in a earring it's limited, no? But here you can't travel, you know, with the patterns, and you know, when they did this, they were so proud, you know, to do, because they feel this is so beautiful. Now they work show, you know, in those pieces.
So which comes sort of first? Is it the technique you discover and find, and then you go back and you think, right, what am I going to design with this technique? Or how's your mind sort of decide what comes first? I mean, you know, to discover these people, it's not so easy. I mean, they're not.
No, but this happens with me. This it's like a synchronicity that the right people at the right time just I meet, you know. Like let's talk about the next collection, the research I'm doing about a material and a technique, about bamboo. Because
bamboo.
I fell in love with bamboo. I only think about bamboo every day, every night. You know, it's like obsession, you know. And I went to Acre, this place where the marquetry, the studio is there, and I found there is the biggest area of bamboo in the world, you know, more than China, more than Thailand. We have a farm of bamboo.
Where? In Brazil?
In Brazil. And then I started to study about bamboo, you know, the types of bamboo, how they grow. It's amazing, you know, how they grow. They are flex, they are very difficult to work with. And I'm launching a collection next year of bamboo. And I went to Japan, where they have the best craftsmen in Beppu, in a city, because last year I went to Japan only to the cities that has some craftsmanship, very special. And Beppu is one of them, where the big artists nowadays, the contemporary artists that make basketry out of bamboo, they learn it there in Oita. Oita is the name of the place. And there is a museum where they teach the craft of bamboo, and it's amazing what they do. So I'm working with bamboo, and I'm using Brazilian bamboo. I'm making a lot of, it's a suffering because it's not easy. They took like generations to master the craftsmanship. I'm using something from Japan because there are works that it's impossible in 10 years to arrive at their skill, you know. So I'm doing a partnership with some people from Beppu, and we are developing the tools to work with the bamboo, and I am learning to do with my hands too, because like a hobby, and I love to do it, you know. It's like a therapy.
So you've merged all these wonderful cultures. Have the masters from each of these skills, have they met themselves? Have you actually?
No, this would be amazing. There is a place in Brazil that's amazing. Ray came with me. There is nobody, even in Brazil, know that this place exists. It's called Ilha do Ferro. It's in Maceió, in a state in the north. It's you take like from the capital like 5 hours by car. It's a city with 500 people and 500 craftsmen in wood. And it's amazing the way they live. It's so naive, you know, what they do. It's so funny because they take the roots from the nature, and they carve and they make dolls, and they make so funny things. And we are doing a lot of things together also, you know, like they are so skilled, and the women make como é bordado, Dre? Embroidery, so special that it's, I want to do something with her. They stay all night, every night at the house outside embroidering. All the women in the city, 500
Stunning.
people. Imagine there is no restaurant in this. You stay in an artist place. Very, very simple. Very, very. But it's, you know, I love to be there to talk with those people and today I received many WhatsApp from them. Look what I did for you. Like a little bird, so well made. So I'm doing something with them in wood also.
Because I find that when you've got people who have a passion and a skill, that it doesn't matter which part of the world someone has come from.
Yes,
when they meet,
because they have the passion.
They have the passion, and they can see it in each other.
Yes.
And there's an example of where I had a wonderful a Thai ruby cutter, and I showed him the video of the Burmese in Mogok cutting the ruby, and you could see he was so enamored by it, and just was so pleased to see that someone else was equally as connected with the stone that has been part of his life. And I think that is what's coming through your work, is that you can really feel the
those
skills.
People, you know, because I don't know how to do with my hands, you know. I don't have this skill. I can do something, but I'm not good at, you know, I don't have the technique.
No, you've got the designs and you can put people together.
The work of artists in another way, you know. And as I told you yesterday, this changed completely my point of view about craftsmanship when I went to Homo Faber last year in Venice, where a very Richmond group brought all the European artisans in one place. Like
it looked amazing, yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
When they made an exhibition of very simple, very sophisticated. It was amazing to put all those artists together, you know.
There's another one in 2020 happening, isn't
yes,
it? The
another one is
in Venice.
In Venice. And for instance, Les Sages, you know, the embroidery from France, and they were in a room like this size, and they were making at Homo Faber, it took a week, the embroidery of the map of Venice. You know, with all the stones. It was beautiful, all the women together. It was amazing. Yeah.
I mean, with all these pieces, each one is unique, obviously.
Yes, never repeat one piece, because whenever if we are in the market and the people, I want one like this, we always change the stones, or we change the way it's done or the shape, but never is repeated exactly the same.
So how many do you make, though?
We have this number now, because now we are making a big change in the company, so the people like more professional, they are making those researches. Silvia, I have never seen so many different pieces. It's hard to, you know, to get everything, you know. I think I have this number. I think we have created how many pieces? 20,000, yeah.
20,000 pieces?
Yes, when I heard this, no, it's impossible. I didn't have time to do it. It's amazing.
That is amazing, and every one is unique.
I'm sure, Ali, it's 20,000.
Your son says, so 20,000,
yes.
That's amazing. In what, in 20 years?
20 years.
In 20 years.
And there are some we lost track in the last 5 years or so.
At the beginning, yeah. And you know what's nice, that I have a lot of help with them, you know, because Andre helped me to draw this capsule collection about Iznik patterns. So I have a lot of help, because it's impossible to do this alone. And I believe that the work is done together, you know. You have to have like...
it's a collaboration, definitely.
It's a collaboration with the artist, with the company, it's something unique, you know.
So how and where do you sell your pieces?
We began selling in Brazil. We opened our first store at 2001. And then we have 3 stores in Brazil, one in Curitiba and 2 in Sao Paolo. And we start with selling outside of Brazil in United States 7 years ago. But the first collection was not market-free. We did an Egyptian collection that you know what's happening now? We are doing Japan collection. We made last like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Now we are doing a small Egyptian collection again, but it's another layer, you know? It's layers. You can do again, but it's another time, you know, you can do different things, because now this carrot is going to be in marketry, you know, with the stones, with the turquoise. So we always doing reinterpreting the things, you know.
So which culture has not been...
a lot. We have Africa. I never did.
Yes.
North Africa. It's very rich.
Very rich.
There are many cultures to be explored. I won't have time. I'm sure they will.
Well, I mean, it just, you know...
This is very interesting, this technique. I found, I came, you know, because I'm a little bit obsessed. When I like something, this is from Ito Sekisui, it's a Japanese ceramist that lives in Sado Island. And I went to Sado Island, you know, like an adventure. And when I met him, he's almost 90, because I wanted to go to his atelier and to buy from him the cracks, you know. So precious about this technique that he's the 14th generation of ceramists, and he broke the pattern of the family. He invented this technique, it's called neriage. He can make flowers, but if you cut, it's in all the layers, you know. It's a technique. It's amazing. He's in Metropolitan with his things. And in this island, there used to be a gold mine. And in the clay, there are traces of iron and gold. And when it goes to the oven, it becomes orange, this beautiful color. So it's amazing. I want to make something with him because he didn't speak Japanese. The taxi driver didn't speak English. So we are like a mimic talking with the other. Nobody understood. He didn't understand what I was talking about. I didn't understand what he was talking about. But we could talk, we could interact, but he didn't want to make any collaboration. I'm tired, I don't want to do anything. Let's go to Brazil, to Japan House, to make a big exhibition. No, I don't want. I only receive notes. Then I went, let's take a picture. No. So I went to New York in a dealer that represents him, and she said, he's very difficult, even with us. He doesn't teach the skill for his son because the technique of the son is completely different. He's like this, So maybe one day we can make something, I don't know.
Well, the beautiful thing is that, you're documenting this as well.
Yes,
and so
everything.
so it's not lost. And I think there should be a Silvia Furmanovich school of skills and culture.
Yes.
I
like here, I was amazed by this initiative.
Well, we could go on, but I think we probably need to.
I talk too much.
But no, not at all, not at all. I think it's what you're achieving and what you've done and what you're giving back to society is really
I
very
think this
precious,
came with the
very
age,
precious.
with the experience. I'm sure I was not thinking about this 10 years ago. I was in other, but now this is I want to do this.
Yeah, and it's so important right at this moment in time.
Because I have now structured my company. I have my sons working. They can do this, and I can do what I like. I think the most important thing is to do what you like, what you believe inside you. Yes. Yeah. What you believe. Yeah.
Well, Silvia, thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so inspired. Are there any questions?
I do some collage. I cut paper and I take a butterfly from a magazine and I glue it. And I make my communication. Now I have a very skilled person in my office that do beautiful drawings. So all the ideas she can put in the paper, because now we make a very specified technique for the goldsmiths, So all the details, because it's always a development, how you're going to finish a work, if you're going to, it's something that takes time. So the process is like the ideas. I can put my ideas on the paper, but not drawing,
It's like a mood board.
Mood board, and I always, each collection, I make a very big book because, like, for instance, in the Japan collection, since the beginning, the idea that I had about the fabrics, I write and I put some collages and I write again. So I have everything documented. I should have brought, because it's a beautiful book. All the collections has this book. For instance, first comes the idea to do jewelry with marquetry. So I have, always is a research, and it takes like a long time, because before you see this piece, for instance, it took like 2 years before of research, because we have to find first the shape to be carved in a piece of wood, a solid wood. It has to be done by another artist, the one that's going to carve like the orchid, So we try many different artists, many different craftsmen, until it's perfect, it's light, and it takes a long time, and we lose a lot of things because it's tentativa e erro, como
Trial and error.
yeah,
Trial
trial
and
and yeah. So until we find the perfect shape. Then it goes to the north and it's going to be covered with the veneers, with the colors. So I have to go there. So this piece, for instance, I made a list in my book. It passes through the hands of 100 people. This piece.
Wow.
Since the wood, the raw wood, until it's cooked and until it's carved, then when it arrives back in Sao Paulo, it starts the gold. So we go to our goldsmiths, so we explain, and they don't know because they never worked with wood. They break it, they scratch it, and it's a challenge until there is the perfect, in our criteria, it's good, you know. So the process like this, you know, you have to try. For instance, when I tried to do the copper, oxidized copper, we did a very small collection, but no, to try to arrive this, you know, the copper when it becomes green, because I used to live in a house that has some pipes that with the rain, with the time, it became green. I was so amazed by that color that I would like to use copper in the jewelry, you know. So I tried to do. So I went to many schools that has some teacher in chemical. So they used to make some pieces. It's like this, you know. You go to many skilled people that are going to be gathered in a piece.
Do you quality control it yourself, or do you have a small team?
Every day, because it passes through many controls, but at the end, I make the last,
final
because
decision.
You know, I do by myself the small, because the goldsmith don't do it, you know. They let it go, but I like to do, this is a hobby. When it arrives in my room, I do some polishing.
I do.
I like to stay in the hands.
Yeah.
Now we are company in the office. We are 25 people. My younger son is the behind the scenes, that he works in the administration of everything. And we are trying to put professional people that can help us in the creative process, you know, like me, Alexandre, Andre. Andre is more like PR. He lives in New York. He makes the PR for the company. And Alexander helps me a lot. I think we are more in the creative. He helps me a lot with the mixture, and he creates the pieces also.
And you've got decades to go.
Yeah. So we have people that help us to make this possible, you know, because I hate, you know, whenever someone asks, how much does it cost? I never know the prices. I never know how much. And now we have to go in a mode, you know, because we have to be competitive. It's a big challenge because now we have like the 4 or 5 years, we got some counselors that work for us. They manage, because family business is very difficult. So they help us to. So let's make this collection more, not commercial, but you cannot fly, you know, to make something that's gonna cost a lot. Nobody is gonna buy, you know. So we have to go in a shape
that makes it viable
because you cannot do everything you imagine, you know. It has to be. There is a business behind it, you know. We have lots of beautiful stones, like the tourmalines that we have a lot in Brazil. since the pink to the green or the double tourmalines. And we have emeralds, we have a lot of beautiful stones in Brazil, aquamarine, but we use stones from all over the world, like sapphire, emeralds, and rubies. There is no, I'm not using rubies anymore because there is the glass rubies, no?
Well, the lead-filled, glass-filled
glass
rubies.
filled that we decided not to use it anymore because it's
That's a good idea.
It's too synthetic. I don't know. So, and the rubies are very expensive
And they're
nowadays.
expensive, yes.
Because I think rubies are
They're very rare.
very rare. And we try to use a lot of Brazilian stones. It depends, you know, the mixture we do not by the stone, but by the combination of the materials that would look better, you know. You have to believe in your source, in internal source. If you believe it's gonna happen, it happens. Simply it happens. But it's a hard work. You have to insist. You have to do it, do it, do it. Do it. I had once I was in a therapy and she said, "You only have to do it. Do it. Then the other things happens. You are going to attract the right client that's going to appreciate this kind of thing. You're going to go in this direction, you know, because it's not for everybody, this jewelry."
But that's where social media can help, because you can get that message across and educate people, and then they're on their same journey as you.
Yes, that's why today is easier.
Yeah.
Because you can communicate your thoughts, you can communicate what you do, how you do it. So it's...
Where can people buy it outside of Brazil?
Our major place where you can see the work is Burdock Goodman in New York, where we have 9 big windows. But we are
in Europe?
In Europe, we are not. We do PET for the second year. We are not being represented in Europe yet. But we do trunk shows all over Europe, but not in a place, you know.
Okay.
This is very interesting. This is a feather painted by an artist that she's specialized in painting feathers. It's amazing, her work.
You see, that was, you know, Victorians used to paint
didn't know,
on
really?
Butterfly wings.
Oh,
yes, I mean that was, but you know, that was in the 1850s, 1860s, and they would use a lot of bird feathers in part of their designs and jewelry. So it's interesting how some materials, you know, it's just the interpretation that comes back.
They come back, like the micro mosaics. No?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love micro mosaics.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of the micro mosaics.
I have a ring, a beautiful ring made. I mixed it micro mosaic from the, I think it's 19th century.
Yes.
Yeah, a scarab in a piaçava seed from the Amazonia.
Yeah.
So I carved the seed in a ring and I put the micro mosaic.
Oh, you found someone that can do micro mosaic?
No. Oh. This is original.
Oh, okay.
Because I always, one part of the work is to, as I told you, there's a Japanese concept, a philosophy of wabi-sabi, that you see beauty in the imperfection. So the wabi-sabi principle is that you use something that is broken, that is not so beautiful, and you take it, you make it again to be beautiful, and you mix it with other materials.
I think modern technology should be embraced in terms of it's a tool, but it's not instead of. And that's where I have a problem, is when I see people, they're sort of having a jewelry range, and it's all CAD and it's all printed. There's no skill that's gone into it. Now, there are wonderful designs, like in architecture, of course, as we've seen throughout recent time, that there's no way you could get a particular pattern or design without the use of CAD. And it's very exciting, but not to rely on it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. It's just not to rely on it.
Yes, that's what I told yesterday, that this film Takumi, I think it's sponsored by Lexus, that the car is made in Japan, 100% by a robot. But there is a man in the factory that he works there for 40 years. And the only thing he does after the car is ready, he puts his hands on the car and he finds a lot of defects. And so they fix it, you know. So I think the man is still very important, you know, behind, not the machine. The machine, you know, it's too cold.
Well, you want to fit. I just feel it's too perfect. If something's been completely made by technology, it's perfect. And as you say, I'd like to see the imperfections.
Yes, because the imperfections are beautiful. You know, you can mend it, and it's gonna look beautiful. Like there is a technique when you break a porcelain or a ceramic, you can glue it, and you can put the gold around it, you know, where the glue is. And it's more beautiful than it was before, in another way, you know.
I think this is when I have to pass the baton on to someone else, isn't it? I'm sort of getting too old in the tooth to think that, you know, the modern way of being able to manipulate a machine or manipulate a soft piece of software becomes a skill and an art form in itself. And I'm just not quite there because I've not been trained in that way. But yes, I take your point. I mean, moving forward, there is a different mindset in terms of techniques and skills using the modern technology. And yes, absolutely, you know, it's not for everybody. And some of the CAD, you know, the goldsmiths, they have been goldsmiths who then
they can manipulate
the machine, but you've had to be a goldsmith to be able to manipulate the machine as well. I'm just going to play your other little film.
The other film.
So I think we'll just finish with this other film that I...
Okay.